Hi everyone, I'm Blaine Ross. I work for the Beaverton City Library, and today I'm going to show you how to make artisan bread in 5 minutes a day or less. It's based on the book Artisan Bread in 5 Minutes a Day by Jeff Hertzberg and Zoe Francois. It's a great, quick, easy way to make delicious, crusty bread at home for pennies, mere pennies. So we're going to bake it tomorrow, but I'm going to show you how to mix it up today. The first thing you want to do is you can do this by weight or by measurement. I'm going to do it by weight because it's much faster, and I'll go over the proportions as I do it. I'm going to zero this bowl so we just have nothing but the bowl in there. I'm going to put in a cup and a half of water, which is 12 ounces. I'm using cold water because we're going to let this sit overnight. There we go, 12 ounces. We're gonna let this sit overnight. And so it doesn't matter. Normally, if you wanna cook it a little earlier, you wanna use slightly warm water to get the yeast activated. I've already pre-measured a tablespoon each of kosher coarse salt in here, as well as a tablespoon of yeast. So those just go right in the water and just whisk it in. You don't even have to worry about getting it all dissolved. Just kind of whisk it into the water because it's going to sit overnight anyway. The yeast is going to activate and work with the flour to make the bread. So now I'm going to put this back on the scale. I'm going to zero it again because now we have yeast and salt in there, which weighed something. And now we're going to put in 3 cups of flour, which is 1 pound of flour. So I'm just going to go ahead and scoop it in there until we get up to a pound. You can be close. It doesn't have to be perfect. There's a little bit of wiggle room on either side of a pound. Just don't go too far over. So there we go. That's close enough there. All right. So that's all our ingredients. So now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to mix it up with a spatula. You can use a whisk or anything. It's going to be loose when you mix it. You're just trying to get the water incorporated in the flour. This is a no-knead bread. You don't have to do any kneading when we bake it tomorrow. We'll just take it right out of this bowl and form a loaf and put it in the oven. So there's no kneading. So once you want to make sure and get all the flour incorporated. Sometimes it kind of hides in there at the bottom of the bowl. So that looks pretty good. There's still a little bit of flour down there, but not a big deal. So it's very loose. I washed my hands, by the way, in case you're wondering why I'm touching the dough. We're all washing our hands now in this COVID crisis frequently. Okay, so there's our dough. Now I'm going to cover it up. If my cameraman will back up a little bit, thank you. I'm just going to cover it up with some saran wrap. And you can get a bowl with a lid, but you don't want to put the lid on tight because this is going to rise overnight and create gases from the interaction with the yeast. So I'm just going to poke a few holes in that. And then you can just leave it sitting out on the counter overnight if you want. I usually just put it in the refrigerator. And then tomorrow we'll take it out and I'll show you how to bake it. One other quick thing, if you don't have a scale and you're measuring flour, it's important to not pack it into the cup. So when you measure flour that way, they use the scoop and sweep method where they put the flour in the cup and then they just rake the knife across the top. And that gets you pretty close to the five and a half ounces of flour that's in a cup. So that's all you have to do. Tomorrow we'll bake it and I'll show you how to do that tomorrow. Thanks. Hi everybody, welcome back for part 2 of our bread making video. The bread's been sitting overnight in the refrigerator. You can see it's about doubled in volume from the yeast activity. And now what we're going to do is we're going to get it ready to bake. And what I'm going to do, I like to use a spatula. It's a very simple way to just kind of get all the bread dough out of the bowl. And I can kind of get it into a nice ball because it's going to be that kind of loaf. Make a little ball of it. I'm going to put it right out onto this pre-floured parchment surface. I like to bake on the parchment paper because it's much easier to manage the bread for moving it around. So I'm going to sprinkle a little flour on top, and really we're just, you're not really kneading the bread, you're just kind of shaping the loaf. You kind of turn just kind of a few quick kneads, get the shape you like, and then we're going to go ahead and we're going to let this sit for about 30 or 40 minutes, and it's going to spread out a little bit, and then we'll come back and we'll dust the top with flour, and we'll slash the top with a couple of knife strokes, and then we'll put it in our oven and bake it. So we'll be back here in about 30 or 40 minutes. I'm going to turn the oven on. Okay, welcome back. We're ready to cook the bread now. There's a couple different ways you can cook the bread. You can cook it in a Dutch oven, which is a nice way to do it. You can actually pick the bread up and set it right down inside the Dutch oven. You put the lid on top when you cook it. The Dutch oven would be preheated as well. You take it out of the oven with oven mitts, put the bread in, put the cover on, cook it for about 20 minutes, take the cover off so it browns the top. That's a good way to do it. A lot of people have Dutch ovens. The other option is to use a pizza peel or a pizza stone. That's how I'm going to do it today. I've done it both ways. It works really well both ways. You can use a pizza peel to slide it on there. You can also just lift the bread on and put it right on top of the stone. That's what I like about using the parchment paper. So now we're going to go ahead, and I like to, the bread is flattened out a little bit since we laid it out. So I'm just going to kind of tuck it back in, make sure it looks the shape I want before I slash it with the knife. So I just kind of bring it back up. I also kind of bring the flour in so that doesn't burn when it's in the oven. So a little more flour on top, and then we're going to slash it so we get those nice sort of strokes you see on a loaf of bread when you buy it in the store. So now we're ready to put it in the oven. And I'm just going to go ahead and, well, I can use the pizza peel. I don't normally do that, but I'll do that. So I'm going to slide it in the oven, right on the parchment paper. Leave the parchment paper in there, of course. Parchment paper you can take out with about 10 minutes to go. That'll help brown the bottom. The bread's going to be in the oven about 30 to 35 minutes roughly. So the other thing you do if you're not using a Dutch oven for moisture is to add some water into the oven on top of in your broiler pan, which is right here underneath. That allows it to cook with steam. So we're going to get a little bit of steam here when I do it. So stand back. Whew, there we go. So I'm going to close that up. Okay. So that's it. The bread's going to cook. We'll check it in 30 minutes. I'll set the timer, and it should be done. So we'll be back in 30. Okay, the timer just went off. It's been just a little over 30 minutes, and our bread should be done. I'm going to take it out, put it on the rack. There's usually a little bit of time. You can cook it anywhere from 30 to 35 minutes, probably not much more than that. I like to check, I've already checked it, but I'm going to show you. I like to check it with a thermometer. The bread should be about 200 degrees. This has gone to 210, so it's definitely done. That's a nice Insta-Read thermometer. You can also get, these are not Insta-Read thermometers, but they will do the same trick. They're not as expensive, but it takes a while for it to come up to temperature. So about 200 degrees, the bread's done. You'll want to wait about a half hour before you slice into it, otherwise the interior will get gummy. And that's how you make artisan bread in 5 minutes a day or less. Here's the book. They have, the new book is called New Artisan Bread in 5 Minutes a Day, and it's got a lot of recipes, gluten-free, lots of things to look at in the book. And the library, when it opens back up, you can come in and check out a copy of the book. Thanks for watching.